Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're dissecting an absolute cultural titan. We are going to break down the anatomy of literally the most successful mystery novel of all time, Agatha Christie's masterpiece, And Then There Were None. You know, whether you're a lifelong fan of whodunits or, hey, maybe you've never even read a mystery in your life, I can almost guarantee the DNA of this story has influenced the books you read and the movies you watch. Okay, let's dive right into this. 2 billion. Yep, 2 billion. That is the staggering estimated total number of books Agatha Christie has sold globally since she first started publishing. It's a number so massive it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, right? I mean, that represents a monumental reach across over 100 different languages. To put that 2 billion into a bit of context for you, according to her estate, Agatha Christie's books are the third best-selling publications in the history of the world. She is outsold only by the Bible and the collective works of William Shakespeare. No big deal, right? And sitting right there at the very top of her incredible bibliography, reigning as her highest-selling individual novel and the world's absolute favorite mystery is And Then There Were None. Section 1. The Ultimate Murder Mystery. So here's the chilling setup. 10 strangers, each harboring a pretty dark secret, get invited under various pretexts to the completely isolated Soldier Island just off the English coast. Once they arrive, well, the weather turns, cutting off absolutely any chance of escape. A recorded voice suddenly accuses every single one of them of a past murder that the law just couldn't touch, and then, one by one, they start dying. But the thing that makes this truly terrifying is that their deaths methodically mirror the verses of a framed children's nursery rhyme hanging in their bedrooms. Think about it, the sing-song, innocent cadence of a childhood poem directly juxtaposed against methodical, macabre murders. It creates this atmosphere of pure claustrophobic dread. Section 2. Unlocking the multi-metaphors. Now, it's super easy to look at this just as a thrilling, edge-of-your-seat puzzle. But a really fascinating study published in the Journal of Literature and Art Studies dissects Christie's masterpiece on a much, much deeper level. The researchers essentially shift the focus away from simply who did it to explore the intense philosophical and psychological undertones woven all throughout the text. Turns out, Christie wasn't just writing a fun thriller. She was creating a pretty profound commentary on human nature. Let's actually break down the core elements of the book into their deeper metaphorical meanings. First up, we have Soldier Island itself. It isn't just a physical location, it actually represents moral isolation. The island essentially becomes a sealed courtroom of fate, basically an arena where human flaws are trapped and forced to face judgment. Then there's the nursery rhyme, and acts as the narrative engine, symbolizing inexorable fate. The characters are completely, totally powerless against this predestined justice. And finally, death itself. In this story, death isn't just a basic plot device to keep things moving. It acts as a supernatural reckoning for unpunished sins. Since every character managed to evade legal justice back in the real world, the island provides a sort of cosmic, inescapable retribution. Section 3. Shifting titles and times. Moving from the thematic side of things to the historical, we can actually see how literature adapts to shifting cultural sensitivities over time. When the book was first published in the UK back in 1939, it was released under a deeply controversial title that utilized a racial slur which was drawn directly from a popular minstrel song of the era. This reflected the casual racism prevalent at that specific time. However, society evolves. By the time it made its US debut in 1940, the title was changed to And Then There Were None, which is the ominous final line of the nursery rhyme. Christie herself approved these changes as cultural awareness grew. And the story has continued to evolve long after her death, even being adapted into a 2005 video game that introduced a brand new 11th character, which is you, the player.
Section 4. A Tale of Two Endings. If you've only seen certain movie adaptations, you might actually be totally shocked to learn how the original book ended. The 1939 novel is incredibly bleak. Seriously, everyone dies. The unseen mastermind's twisted plot succeeds completely, and the island is just left with 10 corpses. But when Agatha Christie adapted her own novel for the stage in 1943, she radically shifted the conclusion. She altered the plot so that 2 of the characters, Vera and Lombard, are actually innocent, manage to survive, and reunite safely at the end. So why make such a drastic change to her own masterpiece?
Well, according to the CEO of Agatha Christie Ltd., when producers were looking to stage the play in 1943, the world was at the very apex of World War II. The global atmosphere was extraordinarily dark. Theater producers literally told Christie they simply couldn't cope with the grim, hopeless ending of the book. Audiences demanded a less bleak finale, just a tiny glimmer of hope amidst the real-world horrors. And so that prompted Christie to spare the romantic leads for the stage version.
Section 5. Blueprint for Modern Horror.
What's absolutely incredible to me is that this 1939 mystery essentially laid the foundational blueprint for the modern slasher movies we know today, long before Hitchcock's Psycho or John Carpenter's Halloween. Let's look at the formula. Step 1, you had the isolated vacation spot, just like Friday the 13th. Step 2, a killer with a specific gimmick and moral code, very much like Jigsaw. Step 3, the dwindling cast getting picked off one by one. And Step 4, the final girl. In Christie's setup, Vera Claythorne acts as the prototypical final girl. She's the last one standing, seemingly terrorized the most, but Christie actually subverts it. In the book, Vera is perhaps the most guilty of them all, having drowned a child, and ultimately succumbs to the killer's psychological design. It's brilliant.
Because this closed circle setup is just so perfectly designed, it has inspired countless global adaptations, proving its universal appeal. Back in 1965, we got Gumnam, a Bollywood musical comedy that transplanted the action straight to a jungle after a plane crash. In 1987, a Russian adaptation stood out for being incredibly faithful, preserving that brutally bleak original ending we talked about. And more recently, the 2015 BBC miniseries was heavily praised for really recapturing the overpowering atmosphere, paranoia, and sheer hopelessness of the original novel. No matter the culture or the medium, the idea of a group of people trapped with a killer resonates deeply with us.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. In a closed circle survival scenario, who would you trust? And then there were none forces us to confront the really dark psychological realities of human nature. When the veneer of civilization is stripped away by an extreme environment and everyone around you has a secret, who do you trust? Maybe more importantly, could they trust you? If you haven't yet, I highly encourage you to experience this masterpiece for yourself, whether through the original novel or one of its incredible adaptations. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.